Hello and welcome. In this video I failed miserably to cut and slice a piece of paper. Anyway, after 12 or even more years of neglect, I decided it's high time to sharpen my chisels. After a bit of research, I was tempted to buy a branded name, and later on I decided to go for a Chinese version for 65 pounds delivered. So that is the pack what I got, 2 elements. And now you can see how for the past 12 years I maintained my chisels. Effectively I ruined them by hey ho. So you can see how nasty they look like. They are chipped, not square, and they're just dreadful when you want to use them. So it was definitely a high time to get it upgraded. So to start the process, I thought I would just try if I can cut any piece of paper. And of course, surprise, surprise, I cannot. So this is the Veritas version of the tool that I was thinking to buy, but decided 145 quid is a little bit on the high side. And this is the one from the woodpecker that looks surprisingly similar to the one that I got from China. And this tool has been used by quite a few other YouTubers and it got pretty good reviews. I thought I will give it a go, and 65 quid later plus another 20 odd for sharpening stones, I was good to go with my little white supervisor to help me out. The process was, in the grand scheme, quite repetitive, boring, but the final outcome is half decent, as you will see in a few minutes. I started with my 18mm wide chisel, which probably was in the best shape, and I thought this would be the easiest one to practice on. I used the marker to help and see which parts of the chisel end are done, which are still not done, and there's quite a good system to setting up. So you start with the initial angle that your chisel is made, let's say 25 degrees, and then you just tweak slightly and change the angle by, let's say, 2 degrees to get that second bevel. And again, by using a red marker, it just helps to visualize what's done, what's missing, what's not done. So I went through all the grids, 400 up to 1000, and that's another one that I failed to cut. I don't know how they do it, but I didn't manage. Anyway, that is my narrower chisel. I think it's 12mm, and you can see how nicely rounded the head is. In the top left corner you can see the angle gauge, which is quite easy to use. So on that occasion it is 25-degree bevel, and you set up 25 degrees on this jig and you are good to roll. I played with options to use a grit just dry or wet, and I couldn't see a huge difference. Maybe the wet one was a little bit more pleasant and easy to use. However, it was much more messy, so not entirely convinced which option is better. In theory, the wet one should be easier and should give better results. Anyway, you can see how uneven the chisel is, and you can see this half moon shape. So this is after 12 years of trying to sharpen this by hand, and as you can see, there is not a chance to, at least I couldn't keep the flat face square to the sharpening stone. So it took me quite a bit of time to get rid of it, and I was frustrated that it's just taking so long. But again, I should have opted for different grit instead of 400. Just go for something much sharper to take off, let's say, a fraction of a millimeter instead of spending time going through this 400 grit. After another few minutes of sharpening, I managed to get it nice and square, so it was quite good I think overall it took me, say, 10-12 minutes, which is not that bad. And now I'm okay to move on to another grid, and it is time to change the settings to 27 degrees and go through just the secondary bevel and get the tip sharpen up. So again, I'm going through 400, 800 and 1000 grid to get the tip or secondary bevel nice and sharp, and you can see on the left hand side the outcome. Again, I failed to cut a piece of paper with this. Not sure what is missing, but it is what it is. And that's my widest chisel, and you can see how rounded off it was. And after learning the lesson on the previous one, I took a sandpaper, I think it was 80 grit, and I just took out a big chunk of the chisel, and instead of wasting time on this 400 grit. And now it is time to add a secondary bevel to this one. And after going through the process on the sandpaper, the whole process was way quicker. Surprise, surprise, I still failed to cut a piece of paper with this chisel. As you can see, I failed to cut a piece of paper, however I managed to use it on timber and it's doing quite a good job. Anyway, the last one is my narrowest chisel, and as you can hear, the jig is making absolutely nasty squeaking noise. So the only thing that I had to do is to use a little bit of WD-40 just to oil it and lubricate, and it's doing the job absolutely fine. So I went through the same process again, and this jig can grab narrow and really wide chisels without any headache. You can change the position of the rollers from inside to outside, and again I failed to cut a piece of paper. If you would like to leave a comment what I missed, just let me know. I know that potentially I should have been using a leather strap. Thank you for watching. If you could subscribe, that would be amazing. See you next time. Cheers!